Right, so thank you very much everyone for watching this video. This is a quick questions and answers session with Jonathan Shubs, the creator of Unified Acupuncture Theory, who has been to Ireland now several times and will be delivering the I Ching Ba Gua method as it pertains to the UAT model. That will be done on the 30th of April, 1st of May. And we're looking forward to having you over, Jonathan. We've had some good fun. We have managed to reach out to acupuncturists in Ireland that I have never met before, and people with different frameworks and references of working with acupuncture. So as a layperson of the UAT, I'm still learning it. How would you describe this level, which, or this module, or, in terms of how it compares to the previous two we've done, which was 5 elements and foundations work?
Yeah. So it works very well with the other two, but it's also a course unto itself. Okay. To break down what the course looks at is we are looking at creating 12 different patterns, and these patterns are going to be a mixture of having 2 yin and 2 yang channels. So 1 yin of the arm, 1 yang of the arm, 1 yin of the leg, 1 yang of the leg. And these channels will have an interaction between them based on the channel interactions that we study in the foundations course, but we don't need to really understand that to apply this. But it's how these 4 channels interact with each other, and then the different types of clinical situations where these 12 patterns show up. So when we talk about the idea of the I Ching Ba Gua, is we're using the I Ching Ba Gua to help us understand the points that we're going to select on these channels. So if you think about it, we have 3 steps to creating a treatment.
Yeah.
First is we're going to identify what is the problem that we want to interact with.
Yeah.
Then we're going to look at the interacting channels. In this case, we're looking at 4 channels to interact because the problem is going to be a functional, internal, or a problem that covers more than 1 basic channel.
Right.
And then we look for the points. Now here, we're going to be choosing the points, applying information from the I Ching, which will give us a series of 8 points for each pattern. So 2 points on each channel.
Okay.
If we want to look at what types of things, the patterns that we're going to be looking at treat, we're going to have some patterns that are going to be working with external influences or external pathogens. So this is very useful for treating viruses, infections. At the moment, it's very useful for treating COVID, post-COVID, helping integrate vaccines, all of this type of external pathogenic work. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is going to be, we're going to be using these long channel combinations of seeing that the leg channels, so either the yin channel or the yang channel, they cover these huge horizontal, vertical sections of the body. And we'll be able to be treating 2 or more vertical sections of the body. So it might be all the front channels, all the middle channels, all the back channels, to treat problems that occur on many different places. This we can see in fibromyalgia, we can see in chronic pain, we can see in a number of situations like that. So that's another aspect that we're going to be treating. Then we also get into more of the functional problems. So when I'm talking about functional, it's like these are system problems that we normally look at as being zongfu. For example, digestive problems, gynecological problems, dermatological problems, respiratory problems, etc. So there's going to be a section, we're going to see which patterns interact there. And there's also a very big section on psycho-emotional problems. And there we look at how we can identify what is the underlying pattern for the patient, and we treat that underlying pattern.
Right. It sounds like a very super powerful system, because it's almost like you're getting a materia medica that you can work with. And I'm presuming also when you find that pattern, you're realizing that you're not only treating, say, eczema or psoriasis, but you might be treating the underlying personality issues or some of those psychosomatical issues that may be part of that process. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the simple answer is yes. What I would say is we're never treating eczema in the clinic. What we're doing is we're treating a patient with eczema. So we're going to use the eczema as to start to understand how is this patient interacting with themselves and with the world. And we're going to find a pattern that will help them to navigate that space better. So it's going to interact with the aspect that is provoking or expressing itself as eczema. But instead of just interacting with the expression of eczema, we're also going to be interacting with the underlying constitutional, structural part of the person that needs a little bit of assistance to better navigate. One of the other things that maybe we can explain, because we're using this very structural, what I call structural, and by structural I mean is that the pattern, the disposition of the channels and how the channels interact create specific structures, right? They create an external frame or a framework. So these treatments are very good for helping people to contain themselves and to give that structure. And then I also show you how we can add adjunct treatments to it. So we create the structure, which is these 8 basic points, and then we can add things to it.
So go back to where we were.
Okay, so I was talking about the structural, how we create these structures. And we can always, once we've created the structure, we can also add other parts to this treatment. So it's not like it's only these 8 points and then you can't do anything. I'll also show you how you can incorporate channel interactions, imaging and mirroring, how you can incorporate TCM if that's what you're using. If you're based in 5 elements, how you can introduce that. There's a way of how to introduce and combine the treatments within it. So we're creating the structure, which has a basic pattern, and there's also this possibility to continually refine it to the person that you're treating at that moment.
Right. Okay. So you could adjust the points and the point locations as well. So say you're using 2 yin channels, 2 yang channels, or whatever it is. It doesn't necessarily have to be about point location. You could palpate a channel and use it that way, or is it better to stick with the points?
In this course, we're going to be looking at using specific channels, specific points.
Right.
But then there's 12 channels on the body. We're only choosing 4. So we still have 8 other channels that we can work with. And on those 8 other channels that we can include into the treatment, there we have lots of lots of leeway in how we add them.
Right.
But
getting that framework of understanding before you start stepping away from that. In terms of the use in your clinic, what would be a typical avatar or a typical example of the kind of presenting?
So I'll give you the example of what I treated today. We'll take today's treatments as one patient came in and they've had chronic back pain for at least 10 years, getting worse over the last 5 years. We did one of the treatments from the I Ching Ba Gua. I've treated her now 4 times. After the first treatment, it reduced by 50%. Second treatment, there was 25% less. Now she's almost completely pain-free. Now it's about understanding the psycho-emotional aspects, and we're working with that. And she's changed her whole life. She's changed her perspective within only 4 quick treatments. So that's for looking at pain. I had another patient who came in who's getting over COVID. Okay, so they've had the COVID. They're no longer contagious. They still have continuous long COVID signs, breathing problems, shortness of breath, they've become tired. Okay, we used a different treatment for them. That's another interaction that we work with. Seasonal rhinitis, even though it just got cold this weekend, people are starting to already have their hay fever. There's 2 or 3 treatments in here we can use to interact. create the structure, their hay fever gets better.
Yes. Yeah.
There's been sleeping problems. I've had two patients today who have different types of insomnia. So I use two different patterns on them. Yeah, I think that's about all for today using this method.
just
Right?
to make sure we cover all bases. Very good. So I think for me, obviously we've both been down that realm with tan and tongue and stuff, but to be able to put it in a usable framework with a deeper understanding is the whole purpose of your training, really. And then to be able to always be pointing to that model of this is how it works, this is why it works, and this is why other systems that you're using work also. So it's not just your point of view, it's the core essence of why it works is what we're trying to get to. So what I'm hoping we can do is reach out to everybody here in Ireland, Acupuncture Council, the foundation, anybody else who's interested, anybody from any other colleges, 5 Element or whatever it is that you've been following, and come to see how this works, how there's a logic behind it, how it can be delivered really, effectively, and how it becomes integrated into your mind. So there's no need to keep always referring back to the books and to the charts, although they're useful tools, especially when you're learning, but to be able to create your treatment method from understanding the interactions. And also, what I've learned from the previous stuff that we've done with you, like when we did the Korean style approach, the 5 element approach, was the power just of just joining, like these ideas of heaven and earth. And that's been extremely easy to apply. It's extremely useful. With the foundations course, it was just putting that cherry on the cake, so you have an understanding why these were chosen. It's not just plucked out of the air and created. They were, they were chosen because they're the most effective ways of creating interactions. So I'm really looking forward to hosting you again. We're going to shoot for the Midlands again. We're going to try stay in the Mullingar region. It might not be, because I know the weekend is quite busy. So it'll be the 1st of May. So we're doing the 30th of April, 1st of May. Book now, it's 350. If you're late, it's 400. So get in now. Then what we'll do is, once the registration, it's a very simple, literally 30 seconds, fill it out, send a transfer to us. I will be there with Jonathan. I'll bring the posters and all the extra bits of information. We'll hopefully film it as well for later use. But I'm looking forward to it, because I have to admit, I did a few of those advanced ones with Tan, and it as we've said before in previous podcasts, it just was going too quick. And I think that I just felt there was a manic rush to get this information out. And I think, well, now that we have you, we can just digest it properly, but also have a usable format, so it's very logically laid out how you would make a decision on how to use those different approaches. And pick your brains as well. So for me, the essence I'm getting is those difficult conditions, fibromyalgic, long-term chronic things that are not resolving with whatever method you're using. And also some of those kind of, some of those conditions, like I had a lady in the other day that I could really wish that you'd been here last week, with a very, very chronic case of interstitial cystitis, which, totally classical kidney, and it would have been gangbusters to have you there for that. But anyway, look, it is what it is. We will go with what you can bring to the table. Let us know if you can make it. I'll leave the registration booking below. If you're going to stay in the area, let me know, because the accommodation in that area is going to get very busy, but we'll try and give you lots of options. And if you get a chance to meet Jonathan as well on one of the evenings for a meal, that would be good. And thanks for that information, Jonathan. And
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm
we look
looking forward to it.
seeing you here again. You're becoming almost part of the furniture. So we might have to get you like an honorary Irish badge. I mean, I've been here 25 years this year. I'm still waiting for my, sure, you're all right sort of conference, but I suppose it will come with time. So have a good weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Jonathan.
Thank you.
Keep learning, keep growing. Thanks very much.